All right. It is Winning Women's Wednesday.
Woohoo!
What up?
Good morning. Good
What
morning.
up? And speaking of winning women, as per usual, I'm woefully outnumbered by winning women, but
None other than female roofer extraordinaire,
So cool.
Silveria
So
Duran.
cool.
Yes.
Yes, thank
Yes.
you so much for having me.
We're so happy you're here. Say your name again because it's beautiful.
Silveria Duran,
Love it. Love it.
And what's your roofing company?
Red Bottom Roofing.
What?
Super cute.
Yeah, we love that.
cute.
You can't
That's so
see now,
fun.
but I am rocking the red bottoms.
I love it. I love
Yeah.
it. Okay. Are they not the most uncomfortable shoes on earth?
Absolutely.
They're gorgeous.
They are made for sitting.
They're gorgeous. I have like 8 pairs. I will literally carry them and a pair of flip flops at the same time
got 'em
because
in my
I'm not going to make it through
Well,
the day.
I wouldn't know what that's like because I have a size 10 flat foot, no arch, wide. My husband says I should just wear the box. So that's why that's never going to happen. Maybe I can tape 2 to my foot.
Just Flintstone.
Yeah, it'd be fine. That's what my mom used to say. She could always hear me coming down because it was like Fred Flintstone, just doing this down the hallway. Like, that's fine.
Well,
Here he is.
It's because of the scoliosis.
It's because of the mild scoliosis that my mother forgot to tell me about. That was another show. Yeah. No, it's so fun. But yes, our announcement. I
yes.
digress.
Yes. So before I evacuate,
Yeah.
what is the announcement?
Guys, we are so excited. Ashley and I are hosting a conference at MetroTex
Yes.
September 27th. So save the date. Details are coming soon. But it's Women Who Win, Unstoppable Real Estate Success. And we can't wait for you to join us. It's going to be me, Ashley, and a special guest. And we are going to have a lot of fun. And we are going to send you home with some tips and tricks to improve your real estate business.
Yeah, super exciting. And maybe we'll get Silveria to come because she's an awesome winning women's business affiliated with real estate.
Yes.
And that would
Yes.
be awesome to have her there. September
September
27th.
27th.
Yes.
It's going to be fun, guys. You don't want to miss it. So mark your calendars.
Okay.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Great.
Okay.
Yeah.
And with that, I will now abdicate the throne
Okay.
and leave you guys, gals, to it.
You can say either one. That's fine.
We're not offended.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're
Well,
diverse.
I will leave with this though. So like red bottom roofing, I did not think shoes.
Really?
I thought,
Such a
ass.
man.
yeah.
Such a man.
I thought of like, getting my bottom reddened in my
Because
youth.
you're a boy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Have you
Yeah.
gotten that before?
And with that,
Absolutely.
They have men's shoes.
They do.
They do.
what?
They do.
Well, I'm going to go Google that right now.
Okay.
Okay,
Sounds good,
awesome.
Rick. All right. All right. So Rick ran away.
He's going to Google the red bottoms.
The red bottoms.
I think he needs the studded ones. I can see it.
It's very Rick. Rick of
Very
him.
not Rick at all.
Not Rick. No. Okay. So let's get into it. We have an amazing guest
We
with
do,
us here
I'm
today,
excited.
who's got so many layers and depth to her, and we're just excited that you grace us with your presence and you're willing to share with the community a little bit about you and your story and your testimony. So,
Yes.
Michelle, kick us off and let's get started.
Absolutely. So Ashley's told me a little bit about your story, and you're inspiring on, like she said, so many layers from where you've come from in the last 5 years and a woman roofer.
Yeah.
So
Both
both
have equal-
are pretty
Yes.
incredible. So
Yeah.
I would love for you to just share with us what you're comfortable sharing.
How much time do we have?
Yeah, right. How about let's do the introductory version,
Yeah,
and then we
short
can
version.
maybe kind of ask questions and
Yeah.
riff off of that, so
Yeah.
we can
Open book.
get into it a little deeper.
Love that. Love that. So yeah, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got here today.
Well, so everybody asks me still, how did you get into roofing? And I tell them survival. Like, there's not many people that say, "Oh, I can't wait to be a roofer when I grow up." I mean, I haven't
with
met
real
one
estate.
yet.
Yeah.
So, at the time I was a single mom, and you got mouths to feed, and somebody said you should get in roofing, and I said, "Well, I know it goes on top of a house, and I can spell it barely." And so, but I dove all in. Like I said, I have had mouths to feed, and so total survival mode. And when I dove in, I dove all in, and here I am 5 years later, and own Red Bottom Roofing.
That's exciting. So do you do the actual roofs?
So I don't do the install. I don't manually
Okay.
do the install myself,
okay.
but I do everything else from the inspections.
Okay,
to
so you
meeting
get
with
on the
judge. I
roof.
get on the roofs, yes, and do a full
Okay,
inspection.
in your red bottoms?
So no, not my heels, red bottoms. So actually, most roofers have what we call, there's called Cougar Paws. It's a brand, and they're roofing boots, and so
Okay.
it helps you climb and helps you climb on the shingles. And so, but what I did do is for mostly picture purposes. So on these particular shoes, the bottoms are interchangeable because
Okay.
over time they wear off, and so you have to interchange the pads. And so I took a pair of those pads to where you have red bottoms protected. So if you own a pair of red bottoms, you have to go get the bottoms protected.
At Dino's.
Yes, at Dino's.
Yeah, Dino's.
Yes,
They're
shout
the
out
only
to
ones.
Dino's.
Yeah.
And so I went over there and
They were probably like, what?
yeah,
You
I was
wanted
like,
us to do what?
hey, I got a favor to ask you. Like, here's the whole story. Here's the name. And could you do
love
this?
that.
And so, yeah, so
That's cool.
It's mostly just for pictures. I don't climb with those,
Yeah.
but now I have red bottom cougar paws.
That's pretty cool.
My roof shoes.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. So you said survival mode.
Uh-huh.
So let's dig a little bit more into that. So what was that? What
Yeah.
were you having to claw out from?
Yeah. So back in 2017, I made a decision that I had to leave a very unhealthy and toxic space.
Good for you.
And
Still hard.
yeah, very. And so me and my two boys, at the time they were, I think, 3 and 5.
Oh my goodness.
And thank God for my sister and my brother-in-law. We had a couch to sleep on in their house, and so I had no money. I hadn't worked. I hadn't been in corporate world for many years, and just trying to. I went interview after interview. I updated my resume, but when there's a big old gap on a resume, and
hard.
I was applying for things I had no business being in. I'm like, pharmaceutical sales, cool. Can't even spell pharmaceutical, but
Yeah.
I can do it.
yeah.
Yeah.
If it
I take pills. I like people. Like, I mean, let's do it. Yeah.
I interviewed for that, medical transcripting. I'm like, I have never done anything, but you do
that's
what you got to do.
tenacity.
Yeah, and so I was like, okay, I'm going on all these interviews and just beat down, and nobody. It wasn't for lack of trying. And so sleeping on my sister's couch for a year, and then we got accepted into a program in McKinney called Shiloh Place.
Okay.
And I will just forever be a cheerleader and advocate for that place. It's a program that helps single moms, and they help them in a way of housing and education, childcare. And so they actually have it was at the time, they're actually rebuilding, but at the time they were close to downtown McKinney. They had taken like an old 100-year historic home and broke it down into like a quadplex. And
very
so
cool.
you had your
Okay.
own little apartment. Now it was small. It was maybe the size of that little corner over there.
Yeah.
But
it was
yours.
But it was ours.
Yeah.
Yes. And so I've documented this whole journey, and I've shared it on Facebook. And so even at the time, I told my boys, I was like, hey, I've got a big surprise for you. And they were like, what? And so we drive up, and it will make me cry. They're like, you got us a house. You got us a house, Mom.
Aww.
And so I told myself I wouldn't cry.
It's
I'm
okay.
Such a
It's okay.
crybaby.
It's okay. I cry too.
I am a crybaby. Ask everybody in my life.
Yeah.
Happy tears, sad tears, mad tears.
Yeah.
They're all tears.
Yeah.
So we got accepted into Shiloh Place, which was absolutely amazing and a blessing. And it's not an easy program. So, again, you have to go in front of the board, and you have to pass, drug tests and all these things and background. So there's a lot of things that you have to, in order to get accepted in the program. So I was super blessed. I counted my blessings all the time, because I can't imagine how many single moms that are either, homeless or the border of being homeless, that they apply for this in Collin County and don't get accepted. And so, as difficult as it was, and even being in the program, because there's a lot expected of you.
Sure.
It's not a handout, so it's not a government-funded program.
Okay.
So again, you have, I had a curfew. Me and the boys had to be home
Yeah.
at 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm grown. What do you mean?
I might like to go to bed at 8:30, but don't tell me what
Don't
to do.
tell me when. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was a really difficult program. And so we were in the program for a year and graduated out of that. And then, just again, it helped us kind of catapult back into where we are today.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Very cool. What was the most challenging part of all of that experience?
Staying grateful and positive.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Really through several years, even sleeping on my sister's couch. There are so many things in my life that it's so easy for us to get on the negative side of things. And, I really wanted to resent and be really pissed off at certain people in my life during that time, that I felt like they were doing this to me.
Yeah.
And so just staying grateful. Okay, and I am a woman of faith, and I'm like, God, you know what? Thank you that my sister has provided a couch for us to sleep on. Thank you for, whatever it was that I had at that moment. So just staying positive and staying grateful. And like I said, even when
It's hard because you want to be angry.
Oh, absolutely.
Like,
and
what did I
have
do to
moments-
deserve
yeah,
this?
I have moments, and then I kind of have to bring myself back. But even in Shiloh Place, I was grateful, but it was hard. It was a hard program. And I'm like, and then I get into, so at the time I was late 30s. And I'm like, really? This is where I'm at in my life?
Yep.
Like, this is where, this wasn't
I think
part of
we've
the
all
plan.
been there. Yeah. We all go through that phase, I feel like, as we go into different seasons. Like you just, like you said,
We had,
it's not-
we had different expectations,
Yeah.
and obviously your season was a very, very hard one. and
Absolutely.
to do
But
at a
here's
very
what I'll
pivotal
say
time.
it played out, right? It played out to be true, like even in all of it. And I'm like, okay, God, I'm going to trust you with this. I'm going to trust you with this. Everything that I brought to him, I'm like, I'm just going to trust you with it. And my life looks so different now. I mean, I just look so different. And I think I shared before, I'm like, my biggest fear, because I have spoken to women, I've spoken in conferences in front of groups of women, and I show up now and I've got red bottoms, and I mean, I drive a Porsche and like all these things.
Fun.
Yeah.
Yes.
And my biggest fear is that I stand up in front of these women and that they'll look at me and say, you have no idea what we're going through.
Right.
And little do they know that I started out in roofing on welfare. Like we were on food stamps, so I was in total survival mode. And I'm like, I know exactly where you're at. I know exactly what you're going through. I know the pain that you feel every night. I know what it's like to put the babies down and wait to hold your tears until they're finally asleep.
Yeah.
And to give that ugly cry so that they don't have to see it and feel it.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that's a representation that is needed because so often, when people want to speak, they want to be able to initially be able to say, oh, I see myself in that person, right? And to be able to
Connect.
make that correlation and connect with them. And they look at you, and we've talked about this before too. They look at that myself, president of the organization, doing all of these things, and I keep on seeing the Facebook memories. It was like, oh, 6 years ago, here was your garage sale because I was selling everything
Yes.
that wasn't nailed down
Right.
to pay bills,
Yeah.
and to do those things. And so people don't see that journey, the documented journey, even though it's out there, and they just look at you now and you have no idea. But instead, that's a representation of what you have come through, and out of that, you have produced a diamond.
Yeah.
And I think that is absolutely so amazing. We were talking before the show, poverty mindset, which really does keep a lot of people down. And I think it's, maybe you can speak a little further on that with your journey, because I'm sure you have talked to a lot of people, seen a lot of people that just aren't willing to take themselves out of, I don't want to say it's not being a victim, it's just being in a different circumstance that they can do more and that there is more out there. So kind of let's talk about that when you're speaking to people. How do you try to encourage them that they too can do what you've done?
It's interesting. I can speak to it as much as I'm blue in the face, but until somebody truly is ready to be in a space
Yep.
of believing it,
Absolutely.
because these limited beliefs, and I still find myself, like even my husband will point things out to me because I recognize looking back and reflecting on my life. And nobody really tends to do it intentionally, but I can look back on my life and see where I was raised with a poverty mentality.
Right.
I was even raised, and again, my parents didn't mean this bad. They didn't know, but it's almost like, oh, money is bad. Oh, look at them. They've got money. They got money. And totally just, kind of looking them up and down like that was a bad thing.
Demonizing success.
Right. And so I grew up with that. And I also, and even now, like I said, my husband will have to kind of correct me and say, hey, there goes that Egypt mentality again. Like you're just staying slave to something.
Yeah.
And so as I talk to people, I'm like, it's okay to break out. But what's the hardest thing is when you grow up in that and it's like ingrained in you, and then it's almost like some people feel like they're betraying their family.
Yeah.
Well, but my parents taught me that I can't go against what mom and dad taught me.
Right.
I can't
Right.
go against what everybody that went before me taught me. And I'm like, it's okay. But we also, and when you try to start breaking out of that, then you start losing people. right? So then
For
people
sure.
are like, oh, well, look at her. You know, she's changed. She's changed. And then we internalize that of like, oh, well, maybe I have changed. Maybe, oh, I'm not
No,
supposed
yes,
to
I've
change.
changed.
I have changed.
Yes.
Yeah, I have changed.
But it's hard to get to the place of, yes, I have changed.
Yep.
And I keep welcoming you to come with me in
Join
this
me.
change.
Yes.
And then so many people get stuck in where they're at. And it's funny, I saw this, so recently there was a basketball player, Ja Morant or something along those lines.
So
I don't
sorry
know.
if we messed up your name,
Yeah,
but something
sorry.
like that. Yes.
I'm sure he'll watch this.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But there's certain athletes that grow up really rough, right?
Yeah.
And they grow up in a rough part of town. And so it's interesting because we'll all sit back and look at some of these athletes that you're like, oh my gosh, so-and-so got caught with a gun, or so-and-so got caught with, you know, they're making all these millions. Why don't they get out of that? But what happens is because all their homies back home are saying, oh, you've changed. Come hang out with us. Come hang out. And so even though they've reached this level of success, even for them, there's this fear of, have I changed? Am I wrong for leaving them behind? And so they get caught.
And the nostalgia, like
Yeah.
those are my memories. That's
where I
my
came from.
family, where I came from.
Yeah.
So yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So that was a really long answer for.
No, I love that, but I think that's, I mean,
It's a great answer.
That's what we need to talk about more, and I think sometimes it's very taboo. I grew up in my mom was a very young mom as well, and so it was very different. She always wanted to make sure that she could provide, and instead of showing me that hard work, which she has done as an adult, and we're business partners and everything else, but even I have to go to her and say, it's okay, like we can spend this money, because you're not going to have to worry about trying to get a 0% interest credit card next month to try to transfer the balance to make sure we
Oh my
can,
goodness, those
you know,
days. Yeah.
to do whatever. And it's that scarcity fixed mindset. And we are believers. And I have to just sometimes be that one to say to her, God has provided and he will provide a way. And as long as we're being good stewards, you know, we've got to just keep on moving forward and not backwards. And I think that's such a hard thing for anybody in business when they didn't come from, you know, obviously a lot of money or anything like that. But, you know, it's people call it all the time, what, flexing and doing all these other things. And I don't think it's flexing. I want to make more money because I want to make bigger impacts.
Exactly.
And I can't make a bigger impact if I am not financially sound. So I know
And
that's
continuing to grow.
100%. And I know that's your mindset, Michelle, and that's your mindset, Sabaria, is that we want to give back and we want to do this. But if I don't have that FU money, you know,
Right.
it's going to be a little bit more difficult to bring people up alongside you to sit there and impact and do those things with a giver's heart and a
Your
mentality.
impact is limited.
Yeah, your impact is limited.
Absolutely.
So yeah, no, that's I think that's amazing. So I love that long answer. What else, Michelle?
What do you think, what inside you served you the most to help you push forward, where other people in your same situation maybe don't?
So I'm going to take a step back. And, you know, I focus a lot on, because of where I'm at right now in my life and with the roofing company and Woman in Roofing, and that's, you know, catching attention.
Absolutely.
But I also was a 16-year-old mom. And so at 15 years old, I told my parents I'm pregnant, and they said, well, okay, we'll pack your bags. And so from
young.
very, very early on, and again, just documenting the journey. And now I get to, my daughter's 28. And so I watch her, and she is phenomenal. She's an amazing young woman. And I just look at, I'm like, okay, I can look back and say, okay, this is where God was in my life, even though I didn't know at the time. And so I lean into that a lot, right?
That's
even
great.
now when things are coming up, whether it be in my company or family or whatever, I'm like, okay, Sil, look back. Like, look at where he was. He has been with you this whole time, even when you weren't following him. He has been following you this whole time. Because, again, I look at where I'm at now. I look at where my daughter is at now, and he's been there.
Love that. Oh my gosh, that's incredible.
Well, and I
Very
think
cool.
that's we forget that that refining process changes, and as your hard was once hard 10 years ago, that next hard is going to be even harder, because what God wants to do in your life is not going to be done through an easy path. And sometimes I have to sit there when I'm feeling the most pressure, that is when I've got to push through, because I know on the other side, God has a bigger plan for me.
Yes.
Instead of getting down in the trenches and sitting there and going, why am I hitting these obstacles? This is God testing my faith, and sitting there and saying, okay, I got to make it harder than the last time. And are you going to continue to push those barriers and push those walls? Because I need to trust you with what I need you to do next. And it's that where I just got goosebumps here for just a second, because we all get in that mindset. We all get in that secular mindset of, why me? Why is this happening to me? Why did so-and-so call me yesterday screaming and crying and doing all these things? And why did I fail at this? And ultimately, it's just a different test of faith at a different time and journey, because God has an amazing plan for all three of us and has done so much in our personal and professional lives. So, I think it's amazing that you have documented so much of your journey, because so many of us haven't, for whatever reason, pride or anything else, family.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's so admirable for you, is that you have been an open book for so much of your life. And that is so impactful. Yeah.
So how do you experience, as a female roofer, how do you experience that industry maybe differently than your male counterparts?
Well, it's interesting, honestly, as of recent. So I'm very open. I put a lot of stuff on social media, and as of recent, I started to experience more, not necessarily pushback, but there's some men in the industry that really just want to go and comment of how wrong I am, or, well, you don't know how to do such and such, and you must not know about blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, you're not hurting my feelings, bro.
Right.
Like, if it makes you feel better to jump on my social and tell me that I'm doing something wrong, I mean, I'm open, like, tell me how to do it right, if in fact I'm doing it wrong. So, but outside of that, it has been extremely welcomed. Even when the name Red Bottom Roofing came, I mean, that's been extremely, they're like, oh my gosh, I love it. Trying to find, nobody thinks of roofing and they think classy, or, and I thought, how do I marry?
Silicone.
Yeah,
Yes.
like, how did I marry these two things? How do I marry something like roofing that's perceived to be really rough in construction, then that it can be a little soft and classy?
Yeah.
And so that's where Red Bottom Roofing, I thought.
Because I feel like typically it's women who deal with the roof.
Well, that's what I was about to say. I reached out to her. We're in an amazing group together and everything else, but we hadn't had much interaction. I've watched her on social media and everything else. And that's proof to build your machine, right? Yeah. Because it's like we hadn't had an actual conversation with each other. But I watched her, because after watching her for so long, I thought there was an authenticity to her that I could trust with my business. And so we sat down and I basically said, look, here's what I need. And it's not even just about the construction aspect of it, but I need a partner in my business, because when I give my clients to some sort of affiliated, partner, I need them to have the same experience that I'm giving. And not for nothing, guys, you don't. You might be really good at the operational aspect of it and everything else, but the communication and walking people through what may be a very scary time because of storms or anything else, catastrophic disasters. I think I told you about I might or might not, but my grandmother, who she, out of the windstorms like 6 weeks ago, her chimney blew off a roof.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And it's been, and we've seen just even a rapid cognitive decline going through that process because of all of the stress and everything else. And so you sit there and you go, you got to have people that are going to be on your team and are going to be able to play ball that way. And so she started talking that way. Here's what I can do. And here's how I can help document that process for you, for your clients, the expectation of communication. And that's a huge win for all of us.
Absolutely, because it's not just about the quality of the roof. That's huge and very important. But you got to get to the point where you can put a roof on the house first. And these days with insurance, there's a lot of steps. That's not an easy process anymore.
Well, and it's not just the roof, like you were saying. It's your home,
right?
It's the home, and I think so many people in the industry have just approached it of a real quick fix. It's just a roof. We can do this, and it can be a stressful process. And most people, if it comes to insurance claims, they're not familiar with their policy. They don't know what's in there, and so then you have somebody who's going to be a little bit more detail oriented, which most women are. Right, and we like to talk, and so when I talk to a homeowner and I explain, I'm like, hey, I'm about to tell you a lot of information, and then I will repeat this throughout the process. So as I just unload on you today, you don't have to remember everything. I will repeat all of this throughout the process. And I think they appreciate that. I think that they can appreciate somebody who's constantly touching base. I think they would prefer somebody who's going to over talk than no talk.
Yes.
And so just explaining all of that throughout the process. It's interesting, you know, I'm on a lot of roofing forums, and somebody the other day, a gentleman posted on there like, hey, how many of you are hiring women to start doing like door knocking and sales? And he didn't get a lot of great feedback.
Oh, really?
Well, here's the thing, because now guys are wanting, you know, a pretty face or whatnot to knock the door. A lot of people are most likely to open the door for a female, right? And so there's nothing wrong with that, but I think he totally missed how much more a woman can help that can help the business and help the process and teach her more. If you teach her the process, if you teach her a whole roofing system, you know, and what comes next and the layers and all these different things, and then she can relay that information, and she's going to be more likely, she'll be more articulate. Like when she delivers a message, we just deliver a message very differently.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I do most of the time, but sometimes my husband corrects me on that. That was not very kind, Ashley. No, but
Can I speak to that real quick?
Yeah.
So it's interesting. You said your husband.
Yeah.
And I'm fortunate. I have an amazing husband who is extremely supportive, but he doesn't help me in my business. We don't do this together. So he's in a complete, you know, he's in his own, you know, he's in corporate world, and he has a phenomenal job. But a lot of times people walk up to me and they're like, oh, you and your husband do this together. Like this is y'all's business.
It's always the assumption.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I'm like, and there are many people in the industry that husbands and wives are, I think I know one other girl, she's down in Houston. She's amazing. Heather Hitchcock, my girl. And she, again, she's a woman-owned, woman-operated. I always put the emphasis on woman-operated because there's a lot of companies, and I get why they do this, but husband and wife will come in and they set it up under the wife's name. Sure. And so it can be, it truly is. It's woman-owned, and a lot of the wives are genuinely involved. You know, they're in the day-to-day business. But my husband, again, he's super supportive, but we don't do this together.
You did this.
Yeah, this is.
No, I get it. I love that.
Hence the red bottoms, guys.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
no. So I think that's amazing, and you know, I'm so appreciative that you've continued to be this open book in these different phases, because you know, again, you've reached this pinnacle, but that's not it. Like you're not at your ceiling, and so it's going to be really exciting to continue to see this journey, and hopefully we'll be able to have you on again here very, very soon, and a part of the conference maybe. You can come sit there and inspire more winning women. But with just a couple minutes left, you know, maybe is there something that's really special to you or on your heart that you want to share with our audience today before we go?
Yes. You know, again, as I reflect back on my life and where I am now, I don't ever want to forget what that looked like and felt like, and wanting to bring other women up. So last year I started what's called Royalty and Heels Dinner. Oh. So when it started, because when my husband and I started dating, and you know, he would just, if I showed up in heels, which by the way, he got me my first pair of red bottoms. But
awesome. So sweet. Love that.
And he came up with the red bottom roofing name. That's
awesome.
That's for the next.
Yeah. We love the creative men. Yeah. We love that.
And so, but he would call me his royalty in heels. Aww. And so now, where last year when my business really took off, and I'm like, you know, I'm so grateful, and I need to pour back into other women. And during my journey, when my boys and I, when we had nothing, I was bartending. I went to a little wing shop, and anyways, I was making ends meet. And so I had this idea of, I get 10 to 15 women, and we go to dinner, and I will call in advance, about a week in advance. I call a particular restaurant, and I ask the manager, do you have a single mom that works here? And if so, I tell him, here's our plan. I take 10 to 15 women, or whoever wants to come alongside with me. And they either have to be either a single mom or a past single mom, or maybe even raised by a single mom. Okay. And we all go to dinner. Everybody's responsible for their own check, but then we're also gonna tip $100 above and beyond our own check. So ultimately, at the end of it, we gift the single mom $1,500.
Oh my gosh,
for
that's
waiting on
amazing.
us.
That's
And
beautiful. I
so
love that.
I was looking at my calendar. I'm like, okay, I need, it's due for another one. I'll probably do it at the end of August, maybe September. But yeah. So to answer your question, that is really important to me in any level of success for where I'm at. I always it's always important to give back. It's
Yes.
always important to, especially to pour into single moms. That's where my heart is those single moms. And I just, I pray over them, and, I want them to see other winning women. And
Absolutely.
I want them, if it's at a dinner table and they see all these winning women that are in a position. And I've loved the women who have come beside me to join me in that, because they all can reflect back on what it was like for them.
Yeah.
They remember the struggle, and they are more than happy to give to this other woman who, served us that evening. And we all write a little personalized note
Oh my
for
goodness.
her and send it with her.
Love
And
that. Beautiful.
So,
I told you she was an amazing human being.
Amazing. Amazing. Oh my gosh. That's
know.
gorgeous. I love that. Thank you for being here today and sharing your story.
thank you. Thank you.
Oh,
Maybe I'll get invited to the next dinner.
Yeah.
Maybe. Yes. We'll see.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
absolutely.
thank you so much for sharing your heart and your passion. And where can people connect with you if they want to learn more about your story and maybe obtain your services? Yeah.
either one.
Yeah, no, just follow me on social, Silberia Duran. There's not many Silberias out there.
No, good
Beautiful
job.
name.
Or Red Bottom Roofing. You can follow my socials. My phone number, I can throw it out there,
Sure.
972-838-3758. I'm based out of Frisco, Texas, mostly serving North Texas, Collin County. But yeah, that's how you can reach out to me.
Make sure you guys do. We're so happy to have you today.
Thank you,
Yeah.
ladies. Thank you
Yes.
for all you
Thank
do.
you so
and
much.
pouring into other women.
Of course.
Thank you. Thanks
All
for
right.
being here. And guys,